Hey guys, this is Communications, and welcome to my review of Narrow Margin. Yep, decided to, might as well. I've actually been wanting to see this movie for a while now. Remember the trailer looking pretty good. And I think I saw the film a long time ago. I remember liking it, but I thought now would be a good time as any to revisit it, considering since I'm on kind of a Gene Hackman kick lately. So anyway, Narrow Margin is actually, believe it or not, a remake. It's loosely based on the 1952 film called The Narrow Margin. It's pretty much the same plot involving a woman who witnesses a murder, and she ends up basically hiding out on a train. It's pretty much the same plot, but there's a little bit of things that are added, here and there with this one versus the original. I've never seen the original movie. It's, I tend to be the type of guy who, I don't know, I find movies from the 50s and earlier than that kind of hard for me to get into. But, there's a few exceptions, but yeah, I probably wouldn't like the movie because it's not my cup of tea. I really do try to put myself in the shoes of people watching movies in the 50s, but I just can't do it. I can't. I try, but I fail. And it just ultimately I find those movies boring, or I find the acting overwrought, or either, that kind of stuff. But either way, if you like the original, that's cool. But I love this movie. I gotta be honest. I really and thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought it was a very slick, solid, excellent thriller. And another example as to why Peter Hyams is such a great director, why he's so underrated. I mean, he's directed a ton of movies that are just awesome. It's really too bad. I think he's the one that directed Sound of Thunder. I can't blame him for that. His directing isn't the problem with that movie. The problem is that it ran out of money to finish the effects. With a film like this, you can tell that you got a really talented director behind the camera who knows how to set up shots, who knows how to create atmosphere. The lighting, the way he used the lighting in this film was amazing. It was really well done. It was like a work of art, literally. At least to me, and definitely in certain scenes. Like on the train, and the way he used light and shadow was just really, it was almost a work of art, really. Pretty much was. It was beautiful to look at. The film really wasn't that high of a budget, I don't believe. Although I don't know how much it is, because it's not giving me the, amount that, can't find it. Of course, it's one of those things where Hollywood is hiding the amount of money it costs to make. I don't think it was a hit, which is too bad. I think it made $10 million, so it's not a lot. It's really too bad, though, because I think this film deserved better. I think this film deserves better anyway in terms of respect. Like, who talks about Narrow Margin? It's a movie you don't hear barely anybody talking about nowadays, and that's a shame. I think it's one of the best thrillers of the 90s. It's a really solid, excellent film. Now, of course, as usual with all my reviews, don't just take my word for it. If you like what you hear, go check out the movie. Because that's the main goal I have here, is I want people to either rediscover movies that they, forgot about or used to love and fell out of love with, or to discover movies that, they never heard of that sound interesting to them, and maybe it becomes, favorites for them, just like I have with multiple different movies that I've seen, I can say that now after seeing this is one of my favorite movies now too. I just have a lot of just have way too many favorite movies to make a, one list, like a top 10. I couldn't do it. I could not do a top 10 list. But I could definitely say it's probably one of my favorites in the genre, in the thriller genre. It'd probably be in my top 10. So yeah, I really enjoyed Narrow Margin. Now, and also, of course, talk about the devil's advocate side. Of course, I make reviews and rants so people can avoid watching certain movies, or they can watch them at their own risk. But anyway, Narrow Margin is not one of them, at least in my opinion. The film gets a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. I think it's a little bit low. I'd give it a higher rating. Anyway, pretty much the movie's a really simple plot. Like I said, it's a lot like the original movie, and actually the film's also written and directed by Peter Hyams. So I think he not only does a good job with directing, but he does a fairly good job of writing as well. There's a few hokey bits of dialogue, but that happens for every movie. It can't be perfect. But anyway, here you have Gene Hackman as Caulfield, who is this he Robert Caulfield, he's a deputy district attorney, and basically this character is inspired by Elliot Gould's character in Capricorn 1, which is a movie that Peter Hyams directed. And basically, and he's also, Robert Caulfield is also named after Peter Hyams' old boss from his days working as a TV reporter. Hyams was intentionally looking through old movies and that might be classics, only not too famous, to rewrite and remake as a modern film. He finally settled on Richard Fleischer's The Narrow Margin. The film was shot in British Columbia and Alberta, Canada. The train used for both interior and exterior scenes consisted of a BC Rail SD42 diesel locomotive and 12 privately owned passenger rail cars, all painted in Via Rail Canada livery to represent the Toronto-Vancouver passenger train. Some of the distant exterior shots were filmed using a modern model train. The cabin featured in the first act was specifically built for the movie. Hyams decided to build it on top of a mountain while it was still covered in winter snow. When the snow melted, it turned out that the spot was actually a dump, and it took a while to clear it out. That must have been a mess. And I guess it was also Gene Hackman's idea for his character to wear glasses. So anyway, so Gene Hackman plays this character named Robert Caulfield. He's a deputy district attorney, and basically he's hired to try to get this woman, Honeycutt, Ann Archer, out of hiding. Basically what happens is she is an unwilling witness to a murder, because what happens at the beginning of the movie starts out with, I really love the opening credits, the way it zooms out with the titles, with the shot of Ann Archer's eye, in her, her terrified eye in the titles. It's hard to explain. You have to see it to really get it, and I really like the way it's set up. And the score by Bruce Broughton is really solid and one of his best. And it's interesting, Bruce Broughton, I think he's the same guy who did the score for the Monster Squad. So it's interesting to see this type of, interesting dynamic. He does a really good job, kind of a Hitchcockian, suspenseful score. Really, really solid job by Bruce Broughton here. I think it's one of his more underrated scores. Really sets the mood and builds the suspense really well. So basically what happens at the beginning of the movie, you have Ann Archer, Honeycutt, and I'm trying to remember what her name is. I mean, for some reason IMDb is not telling me exactly what her name is. They're just saying, it's just Honeycutt. Like, I know she has a first name. I mean, I could be wrong here, but I know she has a first name here. So, I'm gonna see if I can find it. Just hold on. I just like to be. I like to be as accurate as possible. And since I don't have, limit now with how I, make my videos as long as I want, I don't have to. Okay, all right. Here we go. Carol Honeycutt. So anyway, Carol Honeycutt, she basically is dating this guy who's played by J.T. Walsh. His name is Michael Tarlow, and they're at a restaurant, and Michael Tarlow basically tells her, okay, I need to go to my house and make a phone call or whatever, my apartment, and go to my apartment and phone call. Is it all right with you? You can come with me if you want. She's like, okay, it's fine. She goes with him. She goes in the bathroom to get a drink, and then Tarlow's boss makes an unexpected visit, and his boss is played by Harris Yulin, who you might know in Bad Dreams. He was in Bad Dreams. He was also the judge in Ghostbusters 2. And so he was also in The Believers with really, I can't remember, Martin Sheen. So, and Helen Shaver, another underrated movie. And so basically his boss shows up, Leo Watts, with basically his it's his killer. It's basically his it's I'm just trying to remember. I'm trying to figure out the guy's name. I don't know. I don't think I remember exactly who the name of the killer was. Like the big guy, I think it might have been J.A. Preston. I don't think that was So, excuse me, no, J.A. Preston was Martin Lerner. That was his boss. Is Jack divorcing? Yeah, it was Nigel Bennett. Nigel Bennett plays this character named Jack, and he's basically his heavy. And basically what happens is, you hear over here, basically from the point of view in some ways, a little bit near the end, conversation from Ann Archer's in the bathroom, and she's hearing this conversation between J.T. Walsh and his boss, Leo Watts. And basically find out that Michael Tarlow borrowed some money, you know, stole some money, not really borrowed, he stole money from his boss, Leo. And Leo's acting like, you know, it's okay, alright, just pay me back, and then, after this is over, we'll never meet again, you'll never see me again. And basically what Michael Tarlow is he's a lawyer for Leo Watts. And of course it plays out as if, he's gonna let him go or whatever. And of course predictably I predicted this. Where basically Leo Watts, after J.T. Walsh thinks he's got a second chance at life, he says, "Oh, and Michael, I lied." And then he has Jack shoot him with a sniper. Right in the head. Practical too. Blood splatters all over the lamp. And Leo Watts and his heavy walk out the door, and Ann Archer is left in the bathroom. She's seen all this. She's seen the murder. She's seen who did it. She's seen it happen. And I love the way that Peter Hyams sets his shot up while she's hiding in the bathroom, while Jack's looking around to see if there's anybody else who's surviving. Anybody else is in there. See if there's anybody hiding. And I love the way it's set up, just pitch black darkness and just a little bit of light on her terrified face. It's just a really well done shot, and there's multiple shots like that throughout the whole movie. Really great use of lighting. So basically what happens is, and then the movie flashes forward. You're introduced to Gene Hackman's character, Robert Caulfield. His boss, Martin Lerner, played by J.A. Preston. And Gene Hackman's telling him about this woman that he figured out some information that she's seen the murder. Knows that, he wants to see if he can get her to testify in order to put Leo Keller away. Not Leo Keller. To put Leo... Excuse me, sorry. Put Leo Watts away. There is another guy named Keller in this, though. But to put Leo away. Keller's the dirty cop. So basically what happens is, with the help of Emmet Walsh, try to say that name 5 times fast, as Sergeant Dominic Benty, in a little brief role, but it's a fun role. Gene Hackman and an old friend of his, Emmet Walsh, they end up going over to where this woman's hiding out, who happens to be Carol Honeycutt, Ann Archer. And she's hiding out in Vancouver in a cabin. And kind of reminded me a little bit of Commando, just hiding away in the wilderness, and then the bad guys come and, shoot the place up. And then she, basically Gene Hackman, and sadly, Emmet Walsh gets shot in the gunfire as a helicopter shows up and starts shooting up the place. And Gene Hackman and Ann Archer, they escape from the house, and they end up getting in a car, and they go for a chase through the woods. Helicopters chasing after them, shooting them. And I like the way this scene's set up really well, because I love the use of the point of view shots of the cameras like on wheels or something going through the forest, and it's like point of view of the car going through the woods. Really well done. I really like the way that's set up. They eventually figure out that the only way they're going to escape or even have a chance to survive is to board this train, which is heading to Vancouver, Canada. And so they pay for a ticket, and actually what happens is an older couple, they basically give them their tickets because they wanted a private box so they could, so they don't get, attacked in the open by these killers. And basically the rest of the movie takes place in the train, where these two killers, you have two killers, excuse me, sorry, James Sikking, who plays Nelson, who's the main bad guy, and you have Nigel Bennett, who plays Jack. So you have Nelson and Jack, So they basically boarded the train as well, and they don't know exactly what where Gene Hackman and Ann Archer are hiding. So basically, the rest of the movie is them trying to find them, suspense of them, worrying about the killers finding them, and all that. And it's just a really well set up film. James Sikking, I remember he was in Outland, and he played one of the asshole guys at the. It's not Trioceanic. That's Leviathan. One of the guys who's running the space station, and who double crosses Sean Connery, and basically he plays another type. I think he was assassin in Outland too, and he plays an assassin in this. I'm not sure, 100% sure. But anyway, basically, like I'm saying, the rest of the movie, it's pretty much straightforward. There's killers on the train. They're trying to find Ann Archer and kill her. Gene Hackman's trying to protect her, and the movie has different twists and turns. Fun and a weird, awkward scene where Gene Hackman's hiding in another car to avoid getting spotted by the bad guys. And it's an awkward scene. You could tell Gene Hackman was even felt awkward doing the scene with this couple, this woman and her son, and son's acting like, "Hey, are you a robber?" It's like, "No, I'm not a robber. I think I got the wrong car." I think it's like, this is got the wrong car, and it's a really awkward conversation that goes on forever, which is on purpose. And I think it works really well because it just captures the awkwardness and the heat of the moment really well. So he gets out of there, meets up with Ann Archer, and the basically rest of the movie they're either changing cars, trying to stay one step ahead of the killers, and I like this one scene where Gene Hackman ends up finally meeting the killers in the bar. It was actually in the restaurant area, the bar area, and they're sitting down. The killers are trying to make a deal with him, and he's like, "You know what?" And the guy's like, if you make a deal, you'll make more money than you'll ever make in your entire lifetime. And Gene Hackman's like, well, it's like, I'm trying to remember exactly the line where he's like, well, I like being a deputy. The pay isn't the best, but I just love seeing guys like you squirm when you're sitting at the chair, and the sentence is read to you, and your collar gets a little tight when you realize you're gonna go to jail. That's not the exact line, but you get the gist of it. I really like that scene, and basically, it's like I said, it's really. It's kind of a hard film to review because there's just a lot. It's really just a lot of. Cat and mouse type game, dealing with, trying to evade the killers on a train. But it's really well done. It might sound dull, but it's not dull in the slightest. It's really handled deftly and with a lot of style and flair by the director, Peter Hyams. And then eventually, the movie ends with a really tense series of sequences where Ann Archer and Gene Hackman have to get on top of the train, and the bad guys are going after him. Of course, before that, Gene Hackman ends up taking out the other killer that takes out Jack in a kind of corny scene where he basically takes the toy gun from the kid he met in the other car earlier, and that's the scene where he basically pulls a gun on the guy and then grabs the sniper from Jack, and Gene Hackman says, "Toy gun," and then he basically then grabs a fire extinguisher, knocks his ass out, and throws him out the train. I was like, okay, that's really corny. Toy gun, really? But I don't have a serious problem with it, but it is a corny line. And then basically what happens is then he goes up on top of the train, and Ann Archer follows him, and it's really well done because it's really great stunt work. It really looks like these actors are on top of this train. It's crazy. Of course, before this too, I forgot to mention another scene I like the scene where you have these double-crossing, you find out about a dirty cop and try to set up Gene Hackman, and you basically he ends up figuring it out and corners these dirty cops who aren't Mounties at all in a bathroom. Gene Hackman cleverly sets it up in the bathroom, looks like he's sitting down, but he just left his pants and his shoes, so he kicks this guy's ass without any pants on. I thought that was pretty cool. And he's like, A 315 is indecent exposure, you dumbass. Throws his ass in the fucking mirror. I like that scene. And then, basically what happens is, that's when you get to the, after that, then Gene Hackman meets up with Ann Archer again on the train. I like this moment they also have where Gene Hackman basically manages to convince her to testify because he has a good performance. As always, Gene Hackman just knocks it out of the park, as usual. And he basically, you know, tells her, you know, I had a good friend back there, he died, and a helicopter pilot died. And the only way we're going to put these guys, you're not going to be able to put these guys away, they'll walk. So the only way to put them, these killers away is to put Leo away. And you're the only one that can do it. So she eventually, you know, she cries, breaks down, and relents. And I gotta admit, Ann Archer I thought did a good job too. I liked her in this film. She was believable. She wasn't overwrought or anything. I thought she displayed some really good genuine emotions of fear and sadness and terror, and really solid performance all the way around. Nice. She was a nice compliment to Gene Hackman. So basically, what happens, like, you get back to the climax, which, you know, is on top of the train. And I like the way it's set up, great stunts, you know, really well done. But the way Gene Hackman dispatches James Sikking is kind of weird. I don't even know how he did it. Like, he was just grappled with him on top of the train, pulled his pen out of his pocket or something, and he fell off. That's pretty much all I could tell. But either way, like, that's one little nitpick that I don't really care for that scene. I think it could have been handled a little bit better. Maybe he punches him off the train, because the way it's set up, I don't even know how he threw him off the train. It's kind of ambiguous. And then there's a really obvious green screen effect when you find out the twist, which I didn't see coming actually, that there is this woman, this blonde woman, who I thought had a pretty good performance, who had befriended Gene Hackman, and you find out that she's part of the whole team that's trying to kill Ann Archer as well. And originally tried to make it think that she was getting kidnapped because the bad guys were thinking that she was Ann Archer, but you find out, nope, she's one of the killers. And that's when she stands up, she's got a gun pointed at Gene Hackman and Ann Archer, and she's standing on top of the train, and there's like a really obvious green screen effect, or blue screen effect. It's really obvious. And then I like the line that Gene Hackman has, though, before basically she dies. You don't see her die, she dies off screen, but he says this line. He says, "You know what I always liked about you? You're tall." And the assumption is that she basically gets killed by the train goes into the tunnel and she dies. You don't see anything. You don't see like her head get knocked off or anything like in Speed. But, you know, it works. Because it's more of a stylish thriller. It's not really trying to be gory or anything like that. Well, neither necessarily, not really with Speed, but I'm just saying it's more of a stylish sort of, I guess, not really style over substance, because I thought it had enough substance, but it's more of a slick, you know, sleek thriller than an action movie. But as a thriller, I think it really works. It works really well. And the end of the movie is basically Gene Hackman manages to save the day. Ann Archer testifies at the trial and gets Harris Yulin's ass sent to prison. His collar gets a little tight. Gene Hackman smiles, and then the film freeze frames and movie's over. And it's, you know, very enjoyable film, I thought. Very entertaining, thrilling, fast-paced. It was only 99 minutes. It went by really quick. There was never a moment where I was bored. Had easily a film that could be easily boring with its premise. You know, not really a lot going on this train, you know, but it works. And that's a testament to the director and also his screenplay. So, and also the score by Bruce Broughton also helps considerably as well to me, and especially the way the film's shot and the cinematography. But anyway, I really don't know what else to say about the movie, except as a rated out of 5 stars, I'll give narrow margin 4.5. Like I said, there's only a few little issues I have, but overall, really satisfying, really excellent film, underrated. I highly recommend it. And this DVD is nice and all by Artisan, but once again, the curse of the overseas DVDs strikes again, because I found out information that in Germany, there's a DVD of this movie that has a commentary by Peter Hyams, featurette from back in the day, some B-roll footage, And nope, American release, no, we don't get anything. We all we get is a trailer. Ain't that a bitch? I mean, son of a goddamn bitch, that sucks. But this movie doesn't suck. I think it's an excellent thriller and one of the better remakes. Definitely one of the more overlooked and probably unknown remakes out there. But anyway, and definitely one of my favorite thrillers in Gene Hackman flicks. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching my review of Narrow Margin, which is definitely a longer margin. And I'll see you guys later. See ya.